Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for listening to the Wall and Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. My motto for the show is cool people from all walks of life and from all 50 states. Tonight, we have the pleasure of chatting by phone with Austin, Texas resident Mr. Jesse Sublett. Jesse's a musician, a published author with over 12 titles to his name, and he has also written documentaries, essays, screenplays, and he's a songwriter as well, and we will be featuring his music throughout the show tonight. He not only knows his Austin, Texas history, he helped create part of the scene as a founding member of the seminal Austin punk rock band, The Skunks. He has been honored with several awards, including being inducted into the Texas Institute of Letters in 2002 and the Austin Music Hall of Fame in 2008 with The Skunks. His most recent book is 1960s Austin Gangsters, Organized Crime That Rocked the Capitol. We're going to be covering a lot of ground tonight with Mr. Sublett, so let's get right into it. Jesse, thanks for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
What's the weather like down in Austin, my second favorite city in the country?
I don't think it gets much better, really. It's a beautiful day, sunny, almost not a cloud in the sky, and it's between 70 and 80 right now.
Man, yeah. I'm jealous. Although the sun's out today in Minnesota, finally, after several weeks of not seeing it, you can actually feel the warmth. But I know it's a beautiful time of year in Austin, Texas. Jesse, where were you born and how did you end up in Austin?
I was born in Fredericksburg, Texas, and I grew up in Johnson City, Texas. Both towns are west of here. Johnson City is 45 miles up 290 from here, and it's deeper in the hill country than Austin, and it's a tiny town, and really about its only redeeming feature is that it's where Lyndon Johnson grew up, and so that made me feel kind of special growing up in the 60s. He was my hero despite, the bad experiences of the Vietnam War, my people were from there, basically. I grew up in the German Lutheran family and community there.
Okay.
But Austin was always on the radar, within striking distance. So once I was able to get out, either by tagging along with my older brother or driving on my own and using his expired driver's license to get into clubs, I was going out to places like the Vulcan Gas Company in the late 60s and Armadillo when it opened, and to the concerts they had here and in San Antonio. So I got in on a scene that was pretty cool, pretty wild, and sort of set the stage for a lot of things that came later.
Now, let's talk about the Vulcan Gas Company. Wasn't that right on Congress, right downtown Austin?
Yeah, it's really hard to picture now. I mean, it was in one of the old buildings. A lot of the structures are still in place. They have that low profile from the Victorian era, so they're not tall buildings. But so it was in one of what used to be a shoe store, and it was the first hippie joint in Austin, and that's really hard to picture nowadays, now that things are spruced up downtown. But downtown used to be a really seedy area, and there were lots of other seedy bars, within blocks of the state capitol.
Right.
So when the Squares got upset about this hippie joint opening up, it was funny that they didn't say anything about places like the Gay Hound Lounge and other dumps that were nearby.
That was the actual name, the Gay Hound Lounge?
Yes, I remember that quite well, yeah.
So what were some of the shows you saw at the Armadillo World Headquarters and the Vulcan?
At the Vulcan, I saw Mance Lipscomb twice. I saw Big Joe Williams, Fred Mississippi Fred McDowell,
sure.
who famously always said, "I don't play no rock and roll." and several of the psychedelic rock and blues bands, including Hub City Movers and Onion Creek and various bands that they were weird. They weren't great bands. So that I missed, unfortunately, the Velvet Underground. And one of my best friends saw the Fugs.
Wow.
He never stopped talking about it. So anyway, that was the Vulcan. And those are probably the highlights for me, because I couldn't, just go. I didn't know that much anyway.
Right.
So what was happening? So, but the shows at the Armadillo, really, Roxy Music in '75 is one of my peak memories, and also Iggy Pop.
Wow.
I think the next year or so, and the Tubes were really sensational. And but the guy who really rocked the house and was a huge favorite was Freddie King, and I saw him a bunch of times, and he was just really a force of nature. So that was definitely one of the.
And Freddie was a Texas resident. I mean, he was born in Texas, wasn't he?
I think so, and I can't remember where. I want to say somewhere like the Gulf Coast somewhere, but I don't remember.
Did you ever get a chance to see Lightnin' Hopkins?
No, I didn't, and that's too bad, because he played there a lot, but I never saw him. I just heard a song today that just knocked me out by him. I guess I'd never really listened to the lyrics that closely, but Katie May.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's really funny.
Now, Rocky Erickson and the 13th Floor Elevators were kind of considered maybe the first psychedelic rock and roll band, and they played a lot at the Vulcan. Did you get a chance to see them?
No, I didn't, but I saw, the closest I came was when he, I think it was the first time, he came back from the Rusk Sanitarium and had a version of the Elevators called that in 1973. So that's as early as I ever saw him. And it was really good. I know it wasn't, it was probably not a fraction as good as the Elevators in that, fiery 1 or 2 year period. They really flamed out fast.
Right.
And the Vulcan started largely to be a home base for them, and that was 67, and really they started just really going downhill because too much drugs and insanity.
Right. And then Rocky ended up almost destitute and homeless for several years. And I know he had a spell or two in the sanitarium. But when I was down in Austin the last time in 2012 as part of South by Southwest, he had started his comeback. And I've seen some of his stuff on YouTube, and he seems to be doing well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was really unbelievable that happened. And actually, in the when the punk thing started here and the Skunks were playing, all the time, and a lot of the time we played at our home base, Raoul's, and also at the Continental Club, and also sometimes at a place called Sub Creek. Well, our friends had a band, The Explosives, and they were Rocky's backup band during that period. I'm talking about 1978, 79, 80. And so he was, he wasn't driving a car or anything,
right,
but he could sing and play great.
Wow.
He would, his voice was really in fine form. When he'd do those horror songs, it'd make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. So, I don't think he was happy, and, he wasn't really capable of carrying on much of a conversation, but musically, he was fine form.
There's another band I've heard a lot about, one of the early Austin, Texas psychedelic bands called Shiva's Headband.
Oh, yeah. I actually saw them quite a few times at the Vulcan. because they played there a whole lot. That was their home base, and you know, they were not that great, but they were, you know, revolutionary for that time and place.
Especially in Austin. We've got Jesse Sublett on the phone for the whole show tonight. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. He's a very creative guy, including his recent book called 1960s Austin Gangsters, Organized Crime That Rocked the Capitol. And we're going to talk about how kind of the cultures that kind of redneck criminal culture was kind of butting up against the psychedelic scene that was happening in Austin in the mid 60s. We're going to listen to several of Jesse's songs. In the next set, we're going to talk about one of the great punk rock bands out of Austin, the Skunks, that Jesse was a part of, with another fellow that plays in Minneapolis quite often named John D. Graham. So we're going to go out on this set with a song by the Skunks called "The Boy from Armageddon," and then more with Jesse Sublett.
Two Gingers just can't get enough of Paul Metsa. He's smooth, yet strong, a great mixer and very refreshing. The Two Gingers are his biggest fans. They're at practically every bar, club and restaurant in Minnesota to see his shows. And now they've taken to following Paul around the country. Texas, New York, Nebraska. You never know where you may find the Two Gingers. Just ask the bartender for them. Two Gingers Whiskey. What could happen?
6 years ago, Dr. Emily Stein was confronted with a life-changing situation. Her grandmother developed rheumatoid arthritis and was unable to maintain her own dental hygiene. Unfortunately, her assisted living facility didn't have the resources to help her maintain her dental health either. Once her dental health deteriorated, her overall health deteriorated too. It wasn't long until she had multiple tooth extractions and a severe stroke. That's when Emily put her Stanford background in microbiology and immunology to work. She created an oral care lozenge, or Smart Mint, that manages oral bacteria to promote strong teeth, healthy gums, and fresh breath. Daily Dental Care is a life sciences company dedicated to addressing public health by targeting the root cause of dental disease. Because let's face it, we all could use a little extra help supplementing our daily dental care routine. Visit dailydentalcares.com or go to Amazon to purchase our lozenges and use promo code DDC95002 for a 25% discount on your first purchase.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Daily Dental Care lozenges are not intended to replace daily dental hygiene practices.
Someone asked if I really do love my Rudy Luther Toyota Sienna as much as I say I do. Well, this week I've got groceries, a Target run, 7 sports practices with carpooling for 4 of them, 2 games, 3 music lessons, 4-H, dance, helping a friend move. We'll also probably have 3 play dates. I'll have to drive to work, and I'll have at least 1 weekend family outing. Yes, it's a lot, but I get to do it all in relaxing comfort and style. Yes, I do love my Sienna, and you can fall in love for yourself at Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169.
Hello, this is Ellen Krug with Hidden Edges Radio on Sundays from 1 to 2 p.m. Join me this Sunday, Mother's Day, where I'll interview a Korean adoptee about what it means to be adopted in America and what it means to have a relationship between her and her adoptive parents. It'll be a fascinating and interesting interview. I hope you can join me. Hidden Edges Radio, challenging, passionate, perspective-changing on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Brending Electrolysis on Grand Avenue in St. Paul has been a leader in permanent hair removal for people of all skin types and backgrounds for over 30 years, celebrating diversity and priding themselves on finding the right treatment plan for each client's individual needs, regardless of race or gender. Services include electrolysis, body waxing, facials, microneedling, and permanent makeup. Book your 60-minute complimentary consultation, including a 15-minute treatment today for beautiful, lasting results. Visit BrendingElectrolysis.com.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We just heard a tune by my guest, who will be with me on the show all night tonight, Mr. Jesse Sublett, a song called Cold River. Jesse, when we ended the first set, we played a song by the Skunks called The Boy from Armageddon. Tell us how the Skunks got together and what was the punk rock scene like in Austin back in 77, 78 when you were such a part of it?
It was a fight all the time. There was in the mid '70s, the rock scene had just kind of almost all but suffocated due to the resurgence of country music in the form of Cosmic Cowboy, progressive country, and whatever else it was called. And so all the clubs were just doing country music, and so if you like rock and roll, it was hard times. So there was a little club on the Drag that was one of the few places that a band could play if they weren't non-top 40 bands. They had frat party bands who could play at a couple of other clubs, but this club had kind of an open booking policy, and it was called Gemini's, and it was kind of a dive, but it was decent. And so my blues band Jelly Roll used to play there. So in late '77, when we decided to start these punk bands, that was a place we thought we would play. So Eddie Munoz, also known as Faz Eddie, who later went on to join the Plimsolls, he and I had been in the band Jelly Roll.
Okay.
And that band broke up, and we were hanging out with these girls. And Kathy Valentine, Carla Olson, and a drummer by the name of Marilyn Dean. And Marilyn and Kathy were very young. They were like 15 and 16. And they had told us when we first met them that they were going to start a rock band. And it was kind of unheard of for girls to say, we're starting a girl rock band.
Right.
It was just, it just didn't happen in those days. But they were the real deal. They could play, and Carla had been playing for a while. So they couldn't find a girl bass player, so they asked me to do it, and so I did it. And that was a band called the Violators. And so as we were practicing, Eddie was hanging out at our rehearsals, and during the breaks, he and I would jam. And so we decided to start a band, and he came up with the name The Skunks. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Later on, I kind of regretted it. But so we all started playing together in January of 1978. And we had already booked the gig before the Sex Pistols came. But when the Sex Pistols played San Antonio, it was a big deal. And so like 7 or 10 days after that, all these people were going, wow, I wish I would have gone to that thing. It sounded like it was really wild and weird. And so,
and that was excuse me, Jesse, that was kind of the legendary show they played at. I want to say the place was called Billy Bob's or something, but it was a country, country western joint, right?
Yeah, let's see. I think, what was it called? Randy's Rodeo.
Okay.
I'm sure they did play a place called Billy Bob's, though, because that was the kind of places they booked the tour into. So, yeah, I was very confrontational. They came out, sounding really good and raw until Steve Jones broke a string, and they kind of fell apart for a while. They didn't seem to know how to deal with it when the guitar player messed up. But it was a fun show, and it just really created a lot of interest.
Wow, so you were actually at that show.
Yeah, it was a big deal. And, it's one of those deals where, like, so many people say they were there, that there were really that many people there. They would have had to be in an arena or something. But I was really there. And everybody, you looked out around and you saw all these people who you'd seen at the Iggy Pop show and maybe Roxy Music and other cool events where people had gone. They didn't have a place to go, until punk rock happened.
Right.
So it was real cool. But I neglected to mention that the club that we thought we were going to play at, Gemini's, had gone out of business that summer. And these Mexicans took it over to make a Tejano bar called Raul's.
Okay.
And they weren't doing too well by wintertime, and so they were open-minded. So Kathy and I went to talk to them and met them and said, hey, we have these punk bands. Can we play here? And they said, yeah. But I don't think they expected anything to happen. It was largely because the girls were cute. And the manager, Joseph, was very flirtatious. He was kind of like a Mexican Santa Claus-looking dude.
Right.
A real homey guy. They were great people. We loved the guys who owned that club.
Well, it was kind of like how CBGB's, got going with the punk scene out there, because there wasn't, it was just a dive bar in the Bowery, and musicians, punk musicians like Television and Patti Smith and the Ramones were looking for a place to play, and boom, all of a sudden, because there's one club, there's a scene.
Yeah, and again, it was a failure as a bluegrass club, right? So, failure is the, what do they call it? Not the mother of invention. There's another expression for that, but a lot of great things come out of, failure.
Yeah, well, you guys, the Skunks then, and CBGB's is that stood for country, bluegrass, and something else. Country, blues, and bluegrass or something.
Yeah.
CBGB's. Country, bluegrass, and blues, I guess. But anyway, you guys got in a van and hit the road. You were name-checked about a month ago on my radio show. There was a fellow named Terry Katzman, who was a sound engineer at 7th Street Entry, which was the sister club to First Avenue. And he was also one of the first sound guys and record label guys and a bit of a manager for Husker Du. And I asked him some of his most memorable shows that he had seen over the years. And he mentioned the Skunks, probably 78 or 79. Do you guys, do you remember playing in Minneapolis? And if so, what club that was?
Yeah, it was probably 1980.
Okay.
I think because John D. had left and he was replaced by this redheaded guitar player named Doug. And Doug had food poisoning or something. And during our set, he started vomiting.
They probably thought it was part of the show.
Yeah. He puked his guts out and then resumed playing. And it was quite a trooper about it. And it was funny because Doug often suffered on the road. I can't tell the story, but one time he got we pulled over. It was on the way to Colorado Springs, which is a monstrous drive from here. It's doable, but it's debilitating. And somewhere where we pulled over to take a leak, some wind blew up some poison ivy on his penis, and he swelled up. He was bedridden. We played the gig, but he was he wanted to be taken to the hospital. Yeah.
Man, that sounds like a blues song waiting to happen.
Yeah.
We've got Jesse Sublett on the phone for the whole show tonight, and a couple more sets with him on the Wall of Power Radio Hour after these messages.
The number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
Hello, friends. I've been talking to you about Prairie Oaks Memorial Eco Gardens, Minnesota's first green cemetery dedicated to celebrating life and protecting our environment. One of the many wonderful things they have is something called the living urn. Ashes are buried in an urn with seedlings ultimately coming back to life as a glorious tree. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Why don't you log on to the website mngreengraves.com. Learn more about Prairie Oaks Memorial Eco Gardens. See if it might be something that's meaningful for you.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Our weekly Native American talk radio show will discuss national and local Native American news and events. Local and national guests will help us keep current with Mother Earth, tribal, and Twin City issues. Native American issues are human issues. We invite all people to walk hand in hand with our struggles, victories, and achievements. Listen Saturdays at 2 p.m.
I am awake.
As with their Eat Street sister on Nicollet Avenue, the Bad Waitress at 700 Central and Northeast is committed to working with local purveyors and serving organic food whenever possible. But the Northeast location is a bit more grown up. This finer diner has a full bar serving craft cocktails and a brand new inventive dinner menu, including the chicken and waffle, with roasted half chicken, bourbon pickled jalapeno corn waffle, and a roasted poblano gravy. Check out the Northeast menu at thebadwaitress.com.
Hey Minnesota, this is David Packman, and you can catch my show weeknights at 9 for an in-depth look at politics and current events on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Kevin Ross here, inviting you to our brand new store called Ambibulous. What does ambibulous mean? It means one who enjoys alcoholic beverages of all sorts. Ambibulous is a Minnesota maker's market. Unlike traditional liquor stores, we feature only craft beer, wine, and spirits made here in Minnesota. We are ready to guide your selections, where you can build your own 4 or 6 packs. Find us at 949 Hennepin Avenue East in Northeast Minneapolis or online at ambibulousmn.com.
With your AM 950 weather, this is Eric Nelson. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low around 49. Sunday, partly sunny with a high near 74. Sunday night, partly cloudy with a low around 54. Monday, mostly sunny with a high near 80. And Monday night, mostly cloudy with a low around 59. Shop local with one of AM 950's advertisers for Mother's Day. There's everything from electronics, wellness shops, pet care, electronics, restaurants, and more. It's a great way to support not only AM 950, but also local businesses and shops. Find a full list of advertisers at am950radio.com.
We're back with the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We just listened to a tune called Headless Supermodel by my guest, Jesse Sublett, who's a very talented guy. He was born in 1954. I was born in 55, and I've been following his work for the last couple of years. We're like Beatnik brothers from different mothers. Jesse, so you played at 7th Street Entry in 1980 with the Hipsters, who are celebrating their 40th anniversary, the great Ernie and his brother Billy Batson. And their father was a great journalist for the Minneapolis Star Tribune for years and years and years. But we love those guys. Let's talk a little. Yeah, I certainly will. They're just as good as it gets. In fact, Ernie is a librarian at the Northeast Library, which is the closest library that I can get to, and so I always bump into him over there. So you have a great book out. Tell us about it. It's called 1960s Austin Gangsters, Organized Crime That Rocked the Capitol, about the Overton Gang. Tell us how you got interested and how the whole thing played out.
Well, I felt really stupid when I found this story that I was unaware of. I felt stupid that I was unaware of it previously. It was back in about the year 2000, I was researching my memoir. And so why did I write a memoir? It was because in 1997, I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer, and it was really advanced. I had like 4 to 5% chance of survival. So I decided that to survive, I would write a book because, I'd have to, live in order to finish it, Well,
and, there you go.
Yeah.
It's good to have goals, right?
Yeah. And so the other thing I had never thought I would write about, but my girlfriend was murdered by a serial killer in 1976.
Wow.
So this was an event that really marked me. And
did that happen in Austin, Texas, Jesse?
Yes, here in South Austin.
My God.
Yeah, and so I dealt with it other than, the usual drinking and taking pills until you stop.
Right.
But by blocking it out. And so after repressing that for all those years, it kind of started bubbling up and becoming more of a problem and haunting me more. And so I decided, well, I'll write about it and deal with it that way. And this was recommended to me also by my colleague, James Elroy, who I had known in Los Angeles.
Great crime writer.
Yeah. Well, his story with his mother was his mother was murdered by we don't know who when he was 8 years old.
Man.
And it was a sensational, scandalous, awful case. And so when I first met him, it was right around the time of Black Dahlia.
Right.
And so I said, look, I know this is what happened to your mother. My girlfriend was killed. So we started talking, so we shared our stories, and I said, do you think you'll ever write about it? He said, no, I can't go. I can't do it. He was part of his shtick.
Wow.
People knew that about him. That was where some of his darkness came from. But then, lo and behold, he does write about it with My Dark Places. It's a great book. It's probably his best book.
Wow.
And
What an incredibly macabre thing to have in common.
Yeah. And so I said, well, how did that work? And he said, I feel a lot better, I said, well, okay. So that's when I decided to do it. I thought, well, help him, maybe it'll help me. So I went back and I was researching what had happened around the time of her murder. And I didn't know that much about the case, except that the killer had been, he was in the circle of people we knew. He wasn't a friend of mine, but it occurred to me that it was probably that guy. And I told the police when I called them, they pulled me in and they just assumed that I was the murderer because I was the boyfriend. I was a long-haired rock and roller. And so they're kind of giving me the third degree. And suddenly I said, wait a minute, I know who did it. And I told them, and they knocked on the guy's door and they knew it was him right away. And then he confessed to having killed 2 other girls.
Wow.
So he led them to where he had buried them. And by doing that, he escaped. He got 2 life sentences rather than getting in line for the death penalty, which was just in being reactivated.
Wow.
So all of that went into this book. So I started researching this because I couldn't deal with it. I didn't read about the case. Every time I walked in a room where a TV was on, they were talking about it on the TV. So really I needed to escape it. So I started reading about that. And then I found the story that happened the same week that she was killed. And the headline was something to the effect of Overton gang may be haunting the Austin Police Department. And gang from the 60s, Overton gang capers. And every line I read about it in this story, which was a little history of the gang, hooked me even more. And I didn't know about these guys. A lot of them were ex-football players and boxers and just tough guys who had a mini mafia here in Austin where they did have enough vice, drugs, and other ways to make a living without working to make a go of it. And so these guys were very prolific safecrackers and pimps and gamblers, the kind of gamblers who will cheat you at cards one night and then the next night they'll come in with masks and rob you that way.
Wow. And they used to, now there was an interesting part in the book that I think it was Tim Overton. Wasn't he a football player at UT?
Yes.
And they used to have card games in the dormitories. And one of the card players was Charles Whitman, who, of course, was the gunman at the tower at UT. But I just thought that was another interesting small world Austin, Texas thing that just, it's stunning, really.
It's stunning because, when you start investigating things, you find all these patterns. It seems like almost everything is connected. But, there's a constant theme here in Austin that Austin is a weird, special place, but nobody knows exactly why. And so when you go back to the 60s, when it was a smaller town and it was already acquiring this special personality, that these disparate elements knew each other and, hung out at the same bars and stuff like that. It just really fascinated me.
Well, it's funny when you think about it. You've got this Overton gang, and they're doing pills and smoking weed like Bob Marley, and continuing in a life of crime. And then the other part of Austin, you have all these musicians dropping pills and smoking weed and becoming the peace and love psychedelic rock and rollers. It's just kind of the left and right hand of culture, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I really wanted to find the point where Rocky Erickson and Timmy Overton met each other.
Right.
Figured they must have, because they both like go-go. Rocky played in the go-go clubs here, and Tim went to them to recruit girls.
Wow.
And was in them a lot. So I thought, surely, they shared a joint or something, but I never found it.
It's I'm going back a little bit at what you were talking about, just in terms, I think you and I have kind of the same interest in these little these strange coincidence in culture, but you were talking about James Ellroy and the Black Dahlia murder, where the woman in Los Angeles, was it in the 40s or 50s, she was found disemboweled, and they still don't know really who did it. But one of the people that get called in, and this goes back to when you were a suspect in the very unfortunate murder of your girlfriend, but one of the suspects, because he was writing a very provocative, borderline pornographic letters to certain women in Los Angeles, but one of the guys that got called in as a suspect in the Black Dahlia murders was Woody Guthrie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I missed that, I forgot about it. Wow.
Well, it's not, it's just one of those things that you've got, if you do enough digging, you find out these things, but just another kind of strange point in time. So you were doing some research, and you were just saying, really kind of rediscovering or discovering the underbelly of the Austin crime scene in the 1960s with your book, right?
Yeah. Well, as it turned out, and I was looking at 1976. 1976 was a kind of a pivotal year for weird crime. A lot of these guys, the remnants of the Overton gang, which had pretty much been smashed at the end of the 70s, some of them were reappearing and sort of doing a last run around the bases, and so they were making headlines. And one of them, who was friends with Willie Nelson, was murdered spectacularly in the massage parlor that he owned with his wife. And that's what the police suspected, that the Overton gang was killing each other off. But actually, it was the guy's wife who had hired some guys with shotguns to kill her husband. And then many other things happened, including a junkyard war in which one of the other more spectacular thugs in town staged a robbery of his main competitor, and it went really badly. And so all these headlines came out of it, and they found out it was him. And so other Overton gang members testified in his trial. This guy was, besides being a junkyard tycoon, he was also the top bail bondsman in the county. And he had deals with the sheriff, and he knew all the thugs. And he was just an unrepentant criminal and just a really flamboyant guy. He was really huge. He really looked like a tougher version of Elvis of the 70s.
Wow. We've got Jesse Sublett on the line for the whole show tonight. We're talking about his great book. I really enjoyed it, called 1960s Austin Gangsters, Organized Crime That Rocked the Capitol. We're going to have more of Jesse in the last set. We've talked a lot about death in this set, so we're going to go out with a song Jesse wrote and performs here called "Stones in the Coffin," and then more with Jesse on the Wall and Power Radio Hour after the messages. Thank you.
Tall drink of water. That's what Mama said. Just a thought of that precious.
The two gingers just can't get enough of Paul Metsa. He's smooth, yet strong, a great mixer and very refreshing. The two gingers are his biggest fans. They're at practically every bar, club, and restaurant in Minnesota to see his shows. And now they've taken to following Paul around the country. Texas, New York, Nebraska. You never know where you may find the two gingers. Just ask the bartender for them. Two Gingers Whiskey. What could happen?
What kind of a jackass would let an animal pick their insurance? Did you really think a lizard could save you money on car insurance? Would you let a duck pick your health policy? Insurance can be a zoo, but this is ridiculous. What you really need is an insurance agent that isn't looking out for the insurance companies. You need Cheryl at Array, an independent agent with 30 years experience looking for the best rate possible. Quit monkeying around and call 763-504-3067. That's 763-504-3067 for Cheryl at Array, representing you, not the insurance companies.
Saturdays at 1 p.m., you have a chance at a fresh start, a new beginning. Hi, everybody. This is Freddie Bell, host of New Beginnings. Our show features the concerns of America's 78 million baby boomers in employment, finance, health and nutrition, spirituality, and even entertainment. Every day is a chance for a fresh start. Join us Saturdays at 1 p.m. for New Beginnings with Freddie Bell on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Visit the wine bar at Cafe Latte and enjoy a unique handcrafted pizza and glass of wine. The perfect place for an intimate night or an evening with friends. Choices range from spicy Italian sausage and sweet roasted peppers to the one-of-a-kind nacho chicken pizza layered with blue corn tortilla chips. The approachable wine list offers over 30 by the glass with special emphasis on wines from Washington State. End your night with one of Cafe Latte's melt-in-your-mouth desserts. 850 Grand Avenue, St. Paul.
The number one source of the Twin Cities gay scene is all digital. Follow Twin Cities Gay Scene on Facebook and Twitter. Sign up for the Scene Shot email blast for weekly updates and chances to win great prizes. No app is needed to view the bi-weekly web editions of Scene. It's GLBTQ media for the mobile generation. Find it all at TwinCitiesGayScene.com. That's TwinCitiesGayScene.com.
It's home improvement season, and you know there's lots of projects to tackle. Here's one that won't break the budget. Get your air ducts cleaned by Zerorez. They need to be cleaned every 3 to 5 years to improve your furnace and your air quality. This month, save $50 when you get your air ducts Zerorez-ified. Plus, this month, get 3 rooms of carpet Zerorez clean, starting at $139. Call 952-ZEROREZ or visit ZerorezMN.com. Zerorez. Spell it backward or forward. Spells the same.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metsa. On the other line, all the way from Austin, Texas, songwriter, writer, cool cat, and bass player, Jesse Sublett. Jesse, tell us how people can get your books. You've got over 12 of them, but certainly the book we're talking about, 1960s Austin Gangsters, Organized Crime That Rocked the Capital. And how can they get the book and your great music?
Well, they can get the book. If they're not in Austin, they can order it on the usual online sources, Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It might be harder on Barnes & Noble. I take that back. I can't figure out they just do this regional thing or not, but they could definitely get it on Amazon. Book People is a great store here that has a good website where you can order it. And they're an independent store and they support authors. Or they can write me at my website, jessesublett.com, and ask for an autographed copy, and I'll fix them up. It's also a Kindle book on Amazon.
And can they also buy some music from you via your website?
Yeah, they can find my latest EP on CD Baby and iTunes, and they can also they can sample it on SoundCloud and stream it there. And that's the main thing. If they're in Austin, they can go to Waterloo Records and buy the physical thing.
We've only got about 8 minutes in this set. Okay. You're the kind of a guy we could talk all night about, and we'll have you back on. I got to ask you one quick question about your throat cancer. Were you a smoker?
Well, I smoked cigars. I'd really gotten into cigars heavily when I started writing a lot. And so if you smoke a cigar, you kind of need to stay in one place, because anyway, so that kept me nailed to my desk. But I would only smoke like a couple a day, sometimes 3. And my doctor said that was not the kind of thing that would cause the kind of cancer I had. It was more from other factors. But it was a really wild, crazy case. I was misdiagnosed in 1993 in Los Angeles. And they said they took a biopsy and said it was benign, and they were wrong. So by 97, it had really spread out. And so it was really some kind of miracle that I survived.
And it was very painful, wasn't it, the regimen you went through?
Yeah. Heavy-duty chemo, radiation, and 13 and a half hour surgery the first time.
Oh, man.
So I was And so you worry that they're going to cut your tongue or whether you'll be just horribly disfigured or you'll lose your voice. And actually, my voice got better. My throat is really structured differently, but actually, I sing better now.
Well, good for you, and we're glad you're over that. Yeah. We just have a few minutes left. You've been in Austin for almost 4 decades. What? Yeah. I went there for the first time in 1982. My sister lived down there. It was Christmas time, so the clubs weren't real full. I did see Billy Joe Shaver with about 4 other people at the Continental show that I'll remember till my dying day. I kept missing Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I did get a chance to see was Tex Thomas at Hutsteiner then? I can't remember. I saw him a few years later. But I made all the rounds. But I remember going to Antone's when it was on Guadalupe. And I was sitting outside on the break, and I had we had Minnesota plates in my car. And these 2 cowboy hippies asked me that, if I was in fact from Minnesota. And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm down here visiting. And without skipping a beat, they said, would you like to buy 100 pounds of weed?
All right. Yeah.
But what is it about Austin? I really started going down there via my friends Book and Edith Michael in 84 and 85. But what makes Austin so damn unique?
Well, the geography had something to do with it. The water, the access to water and cool swimming holes that made the summers tolerable.
Barton Springs, I loved it.
Yeah, and the way the hills and the river all come together here, it really sort of framed this location to be a really nice looking spot. And so I know that attracted people, probably going back to when the Indians lived here. But then the proximity to Mexico helped in the even in the 50s, because it was easy to go over there and get pot. And also in the 50s already, people were going up. Anthropology students were going over there to get peyote buttons, which were like a dime a piece. They used to sell them in the nurseries here. So people started getting high here, and there was a really great black renaissance here in the 50s. Starting in the 40s, there were a couple of really good blues clubs there, and so when the white blues players from Fort Worth and Dallas started moving down here in the 60s and 70s, they would go over there and hang out and learn, soak it up. So that really influenced that kind of music here.
And then there was also, Austin has always been kind of a cultural oasis in the state of Texas. Not just a fantastic music scene, but great writers and artists and progressive folks like Ann Richards and Jim Hightower, and just a lot of very forward-thinking people.
Yeah. It's just fun. Well, it was just a brainy town, and so it got a little more cultured than the other places, and people just expected to have a good time here. Even before there was really not much going on. They just had the expectation that it was a cool place.
You have to do a book
on that.
Yeah, Jesse, you got to do a book about the history of the Driscoll Hotel if somebody hasn't done it already.
That's a thought.
The Driscoll Hotel, for those of you that don't know, it's been there since, 1880 or so. But it was really where a lot of the backroom deals in Texas politics took place, as Austin is the capital of Texas. And I believe LBJ's brother lived there.
Oh, LBJ, Sam might have lived there at one point, but his place he really is known for living was the Alamo Hotel. Yeah.
Jesse, we've only got Go ahead.
LBJ had his post-election, his election night parties there and everything. And, LBJ did, things that he did. Places like that. If the walls could talk type thing.
Right.
And, it's a monument to Texas cattle money. Cow gargoyles and the faces of the Driscoll brothers facing the four directions. The gargoyles and stuff are really pretty funny.
Wow. Jesse, we've really enjoyed speaking with you. I have to have you on the show again because I know Austin is going through a lot of changes. And, with all the dot-coms moving in, rising rents, and that's effect on the music scene. But that will be for another show. Jesse, thanks so much for taking the time. Have a wonderful day. I really look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah.
And if people want to track down Jesse's work, go to jessesublet.com. Have a great day, my brother. Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show is produced by Paul Metza, engineered by Brad Knaber, and recorded at the Minneapolis Media Institute. Make sure you support our sponsors. Follow us online at wallofpowerradio.com and like us on Facebook at Wall of Power Radio Hour. And like my daddy said, remember to be kind and make someone happy.